Welcome to the Collective Genius Podcast, the show for real estate investors who are looking to scale.
Welcome into the Collective Genius Podcast, a podcast for real estate investors that want to grow and scale your business. I'm your host, Leon Barnes. Welcome back in. I am so happy and honored to have our next guest in with us. Mr. Steve Richards comes to us not from the Collective Genius, but from our sister Mastermind. Like I like to call him my sister because we absolutely love Family Mastermind. I've met Steve. I've seen him for years on the leadership team now with Family Mastermind, and finally had a chance to get to sit down with him at the last meeting and have an opportunity to get to really know him. True servant, great heart. And when we were having that conversation, I was like, I got to get this guy on the pod. He's got so much knowledge, so much experience. Please welcome in Mr. Steve Richards. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. All right. So I know you from Family Mastermind and the leadership team there. Obviously, Brian Snyder, our COO, has been telling me about you for years because you were in Indy doing deals as a real estate investor. Then I learned that you were a coach and you've got so many layers. So I don't want to do you a disservice by introducing you and telling people all the things that you do. I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us, the audience here, what it is that you currently do, and we'll get into your journey beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show today. I'm excited. And it's so funny when you and I met at the Family Mastermind, I was interviewing you on the Family Mastermind podcast. The roles were a little reversed there. And I think you and I laughed. We're like, how do we not know each other? It's like I've been around the same world forever. And so I already feel like I know hundreds of people in CG, quite frankly. So many people will probably know me when they see this. But, again, you had mentioned I'm from Indy. Not to get too deep in my background to kind of start there, but I got a business degree and came out of college in the late 90s, and it was the dot-com days, and it was really cool to be around a bunch of startups. And then a handful of years into that, everyone, things bombed out. There was Y2Ks. People thought computers were going to shut down. None of the startups worked. The stock market crashed. It was just a really interesting time to come out of business school and seeing like things just collapsing everywhere. It's kind of and then 9/11 wasn't too far behind that. It was a really interesting handful of years there to come out of school. And people always talk about getting bit by the entrepreneurial bug, but I think you actually are entrepreneurial or you're not. And I think what happens is it kind of like unveils itself. And so even back at that, beginning stages of my life, I was coaching and consulting with startup companies. And at some point around 2004, I got into real estate on my own. And that led me down a path of entrepreneurialism. And the reason, I know we'll probably dig into my history if you want to, or actually sometimes it's boring, Leon, so I don't care if we do or not. But I wanted to set that up because it was so funny that I had a business degree and I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur. Like, I was designed to be a tech consultant at a large Fortune 100 company. I was designed to give management strategy and advice at a high level for a Fortune 500 company. But there was nothing about actually running a small business. And most of the businesses in the country, the lifeblood of the country is small business. And so kind of where I found myself, almost 30 years later, I realize now I'm here working for God. I'm here to help humanity evolve. At the highest level is my purpose. We all are in our own little way. But where I resonate most with my current mission is to help business owners find their way. And what I mean by that is find the path to the best version of their higher self, who their soul wanted to be when they decided to come to earth. And so many people have lost their way because they think it's the business, or they think it's a partnership, or they think it's a certain amount of money in a bank account, or their kids or their wife, or all these external things. And the reality is it's all in here. And so now, at the almost ripe old age of 51, I've got a handful of companies, and they're all focused around people finding their way to the best life that they were here, that they wanted to live. And so the main core of what we do is business coaching, and also a company called Team Architects. And we do recruiting, probably the cheapest, best recruiter anyone's ever heard of. There is a really practical component there, but underneath it, we're more of a fractional HR company. And so we provide templates and trainings and advice at an executive level, or pieces that are missing. Because what we found, Leon, is that, similar to the business coaching side, where we're installing EOS or helping people with their EOS, or we're helping with goals and all this normal business stuff, there's this personal stuff that I think you and I will talk about today underneath. But the reality is, there's structures that just are inherent in a Fortune 500 company. That's why they're a corporation. And that's why people that work there get a check every 2 weeks, because there's managers that know what they're doing, and there's finance departments, and there's marketing and sales, and all these small businesses are just entrepreneurs that are running around. And so they don't understand onboarding, training, managing, and leading. And so Team Architects is really designed to come in and say, hey, let us help you design, build, and manage a team that can actually scale so you can escape the day-to-day. And recruiting is the lifeblood, but really the cool hub of the whole thing is the coolest personality and cognition test. It's better than PI and all these other things that exist out there, that gives you a lot of insight into yourself and all of your team members and where they fit in the organization. And so that's a really cool company that I run with some partners. We have a business coaching side, we have a private retreat side, and a therapy and counseling side as well. And they're all designed, again, to help people, whether they're in crisis for therapy and counseling, or they're in coaching to better themselves, or they're coming to a retreat for exponential growth over a weekend, or they're just trying to hire a COO or an executive assistant. It doesn't really matter. All of it is leading to this alignment of trying to be their best self.
This is why I wanted to have you on, Steve, is when we were having our initial conversation, there was the business piece as well as the personal. And the alignment is the key word there that I loved and wanted to dig deeper with you and have you on the pod for that reason, because there's a lot of real estate entrepreneurs that are listening to this right now that come to us, a community like ours, to grow and scale their business. All of the systems, process, people, right? Those are the buzzwords that we hear, but we know that you can't scale without them. But there's also the other piece of it that I think often gets pushed to the side until you've got grays like you and I. I think there's a time in which people get to that 45 and up area where they start to go, all right, I've built a business and now I really need the alignment on the other side, because I'm either out of shape, my relationships are out of whack, the personal KPIs are struggling. So I that piece of it is the part that I love the most about our conversation, because obviously people understand there's lots of intricate things that they need to do with people, but it's the personal side of this where I see people struggling the most. Even if they have a $10 million business, I see them struggling to get to balance. So if you don't mind, I'd love to spend a good portion of this conversation on that.
Yeah.
Tell me when people come to you, obviously they're the business side, you're helping them find the right people for the right positions, putting them in a position where they could then lead as entrepreneurs. When they're coming to you, though, on the other side, the personal, they're broke. Something's broken, and their own processes are not, at the level that they need them to. How do you start the process of helping them with that?
Yeah, what's interesting is it's almost like a tree with branches, and it's like someone's going to look at one of the branches and be like, oh, like each branch has its own fruit. And they're like, I'm not interested in all these, but I'll take that one. But everything leads back to the same trunk down to the grounding here of what's interesting is that when I mentioned a relationship or health or business partners or money or all these things, they're all external things. And people tend to, and this is by design, God designed us this way, we externalize things because we can't see ourselves. Our eyes look out, our ears listen out, like it's really hard to go within. And so a lot of times we need these, they're called mirrors in what we do. And so a lot of times I'm just asking people how things are going in different aspects of their life. And what I know that many of them maybe they've heard it or maybe they haven't, if they haven't gone to counseling or therapy or, talk to a woke coach, but like they may not understand or internalize the idea of a mirror. And so like, if I'm looking in the mirror and there's a frown on my face, I can't yell at the mirror and tell it to smile. Like I have to smile, and then my reflection changes. And so my business is a reflection of how I show up as a business owner. My marriage is a reflection of how I show up as a spouse. My financial situation is how I show up as a steward of my finances or my kids or whatever, all these different things. They're all reflections. Everything's a mirror. And so it almost doesn't matter, Leon, which aspect of life someone's like, hey, I want to go to, we have these experiential retreats, and it's the cool kind of crazy stuff they hear Aaron Rodgers talking about on Netflix or whatever. But we have the traditional therapy, or we have recruiting and HR services, or we facilitate groups or events or coach, all these different, it doesn't matter which one you come in. Everything is going to lead back to you, because we're going to start by asking what the external images are that you're seeing and what do you not like about them, because they're all a representation of what you don't like about yourself. And there's a direct link back every time. And so what happens is what we've learned is, and I won't get too deep because I know I'm a little bit out of your question here, but it's like, if all I do is work on my business, or all I do is go to church to work on my God, or all I do is go to my marriage counseling to work on my marriage. If I'm trying to just put all my eggs in that basket for that one compartmentalized piece, I'm doing 5 different things separately with no context or relativity that I'm actually the common thread in all those things. And I'm the bigger constant that needs, if I can create a constant within me, within my heart or within me, my psyche, my whatever, my planning, my perspective on life, which is what we call spirituality, which is just the glue of everything. But it's like how I see myself in the world and where I show up. If I can focus on that, I can get a constant that doesn't move. I no longer have a moving target. Now I can relatively go work on all these things back to how they relate to me, if that makes sense. I know I got a little esoteric there, but the point is like, if you're not, it's hard for people to understand what I'm saying sometimes, but many people are like, how did you guys figure out how to connect all these things? We didn't. It's actually harder to compartmentalize every part of your life and work on it separately in a vacuum and hope it all lines up. But if I work on my alignment with who I really am first, and then I look at all these things as a reflection of myself back, I have the ability to make a lot of progress. I can collapse timelines, is the way we kind of say it in our words, but it's like I can accelerate my growth. But more than anything, I can keep the alignment, instead of like my marriage goes off good that way, my finances go off good that way, and everything might be going up and out, but it's spread out everywhere, and I lose myself. And then I'm going to feel like there's something else for me. There's something bigger. There's something I don't know yet. There's something missing. There's something more. I made a bunch of money, but I don't feel good. All these things happen. It's because you've lost yourself and you've externalized it, and you've been successful in all these things individually, but you lost the connection back to yourself.
Can you share some examples, like case studies, not names, obviously, but individuals that you've worked with that are real estate investors that have come to you and very successful, but they're not aligned. They're lost in their pursuit of happiness, pursuit of greatness beyond just business. You give some examples, because I think what you're saying may miss the mark for those listening unless they know exactly those type of examples that they're facing right now.
Yeah, I'm going to give a lesson at the end. I'll give a couple examples because that's what you asked for, but there's a lesson I think that will tie it back really well. It's a perspective I've learned that usually really helps a lot of people. But I mean, the classic examples, Leon, are you're making the most money you've ever made in your life, but your marriage is okay. It's not bad, but it's not what it used to be. But you're kind of settled. Your kids just took on a life of their own, and you're in the worst shape you've ever been in. Your gut's bigger, you don't feel great, and you're getting older, and your mortality is coming into picture. Like you said, somehow between 40 and 50 is like, I'm not going to be here forever. And when I get hurt, like it takes a while to recover, like my body's not quite what it used to be. Or almost all of us have done longevity blood testing and all these things. And we start, be told by people that like, you have this or you have that, and so, I think some of the most core examples mostly relate around inconsistent results. That's the most common thing that we see, which are starts and stops, where it's like every 2 to 4 years, it's like, oh, I used to wholesale and whatever, but now I'm going to rehab everything. And then that works for a while when it's fun and new. And then at some point you're like, I'm sick of contractors and draw requests and like inventory. And like when I wholesaled, I didn't have to mow any yards, and I didn't have code violate, whatever. Like I didn't have HOAs. now I'm going to do novations. It's like, you think the exit strategy is the thing that changes it, or it's like, oh, one of my marketing channels is a problem. The economy shifted back in we were all printing money up until, a handful of years ago. And then it's like, oh, the market shifted. And the reality is clients will come to us and say things like, hey, once the market shifted, especially if they're in real estate, and we coach all businesses, but it's funny because it's like, they don't really like hearing this, but the interest rate didn't cause the problem. It illuminated the issue that you had, is that you're not, you don't have a breadth of data coming in to show you when things are shifting, or when you're like too reliant on one aspect of the economy, right? And so you just didn't have enough data or enough foresight to plan differently. And that's what exposed it, was the interest rate change. And so these inconsistent results, I think, are probably the most common example we see, where it's like, yeah, I'm always doing okay and have great years, and I have a down year, or even the months through the year. A lot of that has to do with the fact that you're not settled with who you are and what you're doing. So you're always kind of trying new things. That's that mirror. It's like, it's almost self-sabotaging, Leon, because it's like something's not working, and instead of figuring out why, we just jump. We're like, oh, it's my acquisitions team, and you fire everyone and hire all new people. Or, oh, it's my marketing company, and like this shift. And then it's like you wholesale make a big change there. I don't mean wholesale, but like you make a huge shift and just get rid of everything. And so those are the common pieces, where it's like, if it's within your business, we see inconsistent results, or you're constantly reinventing yourself and you're never able to get out. You get one foot out and you're pulling the second one out, and then like your COO quits and you're like suck right back in. You're always like one phone call or one quitting or firing away from being like on the phone with a seller. And so it's funny that I see the lifestyle businesses, until they can operate like a real business, they're always dying or growing. And if you try to run it like a lifestyle, where you think you have a set it and forget it with your team, trust me, if you don't have a strategic C-suite in place who is growing the company, it is dying. Even if it doesn't look like it, it's dying under the hood. You won't know it until you run out of gas, and then you're stuck and you got to push the car and get it going again. And the second thing that I'll say is, if you're having success in one area of your life in a detriment to another, if anything is an extreme, and then as soon as two things are opposite extremes, you have a serious problem. And what I mean by that is, like, if one thing becomes the best it's ever been, and another aspect, there's the 5 Fs, or however you want to look at your life, split it up. If one is near or at the best it's ever been, and one is near or at the worst it's ever been, you have a serious problem internally with creating balance in your life. And so the lesson I was going to drop in there real quick is, this was really crazy for me to understand, but a lot of people think satisfied and content are the same thing. And satisfied is looking forward, and it's about hope, and it's about change, and it's about being more, and it's about being open-minded, by the way. It's about doing more and not being okay with staying where I am. I'm unsatisfied looking forward. Now, looking back, it's not about being satisfied backwards of where you're at, because you can always find that you could have done more. Satisfaction, trying to be satisfied in your life is really hard, but being unsatisfied is really easy. But I have to apply the unsatisfaction looking forward, so it drives me to do more. I'm never going to be satisfied looking back. And so when I look back, I've got to use the concept of contentment. I've got to be content, which doesn't mean I did everything I could have, or I'm totally satisfied. What it means is I'm okay with, I have accountability that I'm right where I deserve to be based on the choices I made. And so looking back, I have to have grace and say, hey, it's not if I would have had a better business partner. It's not if that lender wouldn't have pulled out. It's not if all those employees, like, it's not if the market wouldn't shift it. I've got to look at it and say, look, the hand I was dealt and the moves I made got me to where I am. And if I can't be content, looking back, I can't be discontent. I've got to be content. But also I don't want to be satisfied, because that means I'm not going anywhere else. I'm going coasting. I need to be unsatisfied and content at the same time, and I can be happy because I have hope for the future, and I'm okay with, I have accountability and grace looking backwards. And I don't care where anyone's at. I can be trying to coach them, going through therapy, a retreat, hiring a COO, an EA, a sale, all these things going on. If you think any one of those is a silver bullet that will fix your business, if I could just hit this one thing, if I could just get that COO in so I could leave the business, if I could just get my marriage to be back to where it was, if I could just get back into the shape I used to be in, like, none of that stuff will fix the fact that you have a victim mentality looking backwards and you have a skewed perspective looking forwards. If you can get those two into hope looking forward, and I'm not satisfied with staying here, but I'm okay with being here, content, you can be happy in any situation, because now, okay, I can go to bed tonight feeling okay. And I can still get up tomorrow and go try to be better, learn more, fix my marriage, get in shape, whatever. I know I've got more to do. So I don't feel bad about not having done it yet. I'm excited about getting the chance to do it, and I'm okay with where I'm at. And I know I belabored that point, but I think people, if I could, I'm always trying to drop like one thing for people. And I think so many people come and they think, oh, if you can just do my business coaching with me, which, by the way, in our world is healing the business, because the business is an entity just like we are. We're human beings, we're entities. But like, if I can just heal my business, everything's okay. Or team architects, like if you can just hire a great acquisition manager, or people have this silver bullet mentality, and what we try to do is pull them into the other aspects of all the tree of what we do, because we've got to fix that internal mechanism, which creates happiness. And you don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to have done it all in the past either. Things can be whatever they are, and you're okay and happy in any situation. And that is true peace. And I just wanted to share that in it, because I think, to answer your question there, every possible example I could give you would all stem from that. They're just not happy, and nothing's going to make them happy except themselves, if that makes sense.
This is something that I know you see a lot, because I see it as well, is defining happiness is tough for entrepreneurs, because we're always pushing the rock up the hill to continue to do more. Not necessarily more money, but just to continue to have this growth mentality. So those individuals, you work with all business owners. Where do you start with people like that? Because they may not be able to truly out of the gates immediately define what happiness looks like, because each goal attained, they just move on to the next thing, and they don't sit or bask often in that happiness.
Great question. It's funny. I'll add this too, in case someone didn't quite get that. Ed Milet is slightly better known than me, just by a little bit. I think he calls it like blissfully dissatisfied is his version of this. So he's happy about not being where he wants to be, which is a fancy or different way of saying the same thing. But great question, Leon, because here's the exact logistical, practical way of looking at what I said. In the coaching is where we really uncover this the easiest. We can in the therapy and counseling side too. It just takes multiple sessions, and it's more personal based. So where we typically start with someone who wants to really figure out what you just asked, there's two things we do. And I'm going to give it in the example of a GPS. So the GPS needs two things. It needs a destination plugged in, and it needs a location. And we've got to get 2 points, or we can't draw a line. I can't get you going in alignment unless I can get a line. I got to get 2 points. I can't just be like, some people come in and say, this is what I want. I want to be here. Well, this doesn't have enough context, and there's no relativity, because I don't know where you're at. So we will work with people to realign their goals, and many times they're running away from something instead of towards it, or they just played checkers and they're like, well, last few years I did this, and so next year I can do that. Like I can jump forward or to the left or forward to the right. It's kind of like a checkers game. We want them to play chess, and it's like, hey, let's go way out, like EOS, almost like 10 years out, and reverse engineer backwards. Because like a chess game, we can just pick the piece up and drop it somewhere else on the board and make a big move, right? And so we're realigning goals, which is the destination. And so many times people don't really want what they are chasing. I know you see it in the higher levels of CG where guys are like, I'm blowing my numbers out and I've never been more bored. I've never been less happy. Like another zero on my net worth that I killed myself to get over the last 5 years didn't change anything. So getting in fully aligned goals here's the hard part of this. Most people don't know what they want. So it's hard to create goals. The reason they don't know what they want is because they don't know who they are, which goes back to the personal work we try to help people with. Because as soon as you know who you are, you always know what you want. But if you don't know who you are, you want what other people are doing, or you don't want what you have. You want something else, and this seems better. And so there's a misalignment of goals. And by the way, not only do many people that achieve goals get there and then not those are the powerhouse guys at the top of CG. They can push their way all the way to the end and get it, and then they're not happy. Most people self-sabotage along the way because they already kind of know subconsciously this isn't what I want. So they sabotage because they don't want to get 5 years or 10 years down and be stuck. That is one piece of the equation that is absolutely important, is doing the personal and professional work to create properly aligned goals that are better defined, and they're stretchingly realistic. One little tidbit I'll add to that is like, nothing is more annoying, Leon, than someone who's like, oh, I did 5 million last year, so I'm going to shoot for 10 million this year. No, you're not. You're probably going to do 4 million. You're probably, like if you did 3.5 and jumped to 5, you're going to normalize. So the reality is we should try to do 5 again, but with a better profit margin. And if I'm trying to run an $8 million or whatever I said, if I'm trying to run a $7 million business instead of a $5 million business, now I'm buying data like a $7 million business. I'm hiring like I'm getting a bigger office. I'm doing all this stuff that has nothing to do with what I really need. It has to do with this misaligned goal that I have. And so I hate this whole, I'm going to shoot for the moon because I'll land in the stars. I'm like, no, I want you to shoot for exactly what you want. And we're going to do exactly what you need to do to get there. And we're going to build a way to use KPIs, leading indicators, lagging results, and the right team. And we're going to get you there. But that's half the equation. And the other piece is we have to do a deep audit. And there's a reason why most large corporations pay millions of dollars to outside parties to come in and audit their business, because we all have blind spots and we don't know. And we will pat ourselves on the back when we shouldn't, and we will beat ourselves up when we shouldn't. And so we don't give ourselves credit for what we have done, but we also will turn a blind eye to the things that we should be doing that we're not. And so we need accountability. So in the coaching we do, we just see that mentoring, accountability, coaching, training, these are all different things. And usually you're in one or the other. Even a mastermind's a peer group that can offer some training because a good person was on stage and gave some tidbits, can offer some mentoring when you meet someone and spend time with. There's components there, but even a peer group is different. So there's all these different things we can do. But getting back to this piece of like the audit, typically we need someone who understands how to audit, is a interested but unbiased third party who understands what our business could or should do so that they can see what it is doing and compare it. And we need a clear set of eyes from the outside looking in. And so the audit, we call it the impact audit with what we do, but that is the best money you could possibly spend, is to have an actual breakdown of here's your profit model, here's your team, here's your systems, here's your processes, and here's your P&L and how everything's looking, and say, look, these are your blind spots. These are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, broken down. And then based on this, by the way, this is really great to know, but it's only relative to where we're headed. Now we've got 2 really clear points, and we can reverse engineer backwards to a very aligned, well-defined goal, back to a very clear picture of where we're at. And the reason this is so powerful is we all know in the GPS analogy why having an exact address plugged in is important. Otherwise, we don't wind up at the exact location because we need a very defined and clear goal. But what's actually, in my opinion, more important is the audit, because if I don't have my location plugged into my GPS, I don't even know which way to turn out of the driveway. I don't know if I should turn left the very first turn. I don't know what to do next. And I think a lot of people are so far out in the future, they're not in the present. And so I think if people are taking away what you just said, Leon, how to be unsatisfied and content and all these things, it's be very clear of where you are and be very aligned and clear where you want to be. That creates the path. And then there's a lot of the guessing is taken out of the whole process.
So you make this sound very easy. I know there's a time and a process that goes with this. Typically, I'm listening to this and I say, look, I'm doing the best I've ever done in business, but I just don't feel aligned, both, from my personal and the business. The business is great, but I need help on the personal side. I mean, we all need different times to, I'm sure, to learn things. We learn things differently. This is a massive change for most people, especially if you're, like us. I'm 48, almost 49. You're on the other side of 50, a little bit more gray than me, but just got me by a couple.
It's the lights. It's the lighting in here.
It's the pleats and the lights. So this is going to take time. I want to get this across, and would love, from the experience, I don't want people thinking, I've just come in here, I've got my GPS destination, I know where I'm at right now, now I need to just go work on myself. What's the typical time to, that it takes to get to this, more personal alignment with your business as well?
Yeah, the cool thing is it's like compounding interest. So people tend to overestimate what they can do in 90 days, but they greatly underestimate what they can do in 1 or 2 years. And so I think sometimes we get this like sense of urgency that we focus on rather than the importance of what's important. It's kind of like that matrix, the Eisenhower matrix. If you know that, it's like important, urgent, not important, not urgent, or whatever. I'm sure you guys have all seen that, but it's like, if we're aligned with this, you can make a lot of hay in 6 months. You can move a lot of needles. I think most people, it takes more like 6 to 12 months to move a lot of the needles, but in 90 days, here's the thing is like, this is why we do the retreats we do. Your whole world can change in an instant when you hear if you change your mind, your reality changes. I'm not going to go off on a tangent too much, but there's a guy named Bruce Lipton, who's the leading epigenetist in the world. And 20 years ago, everyone said he was crazy because he said almost all diseases that everyone think are genetic, less than 1% of them actually are really like a death sentence. Like, the cancer runs in the family, diabetes runs in the family. If you guys understand epigenetics, it's more your environment than it is your genetics. And so what he defined was that it's more nurture than nature. And so even though your genetics might have a predisposition for Parkinson's or schizophrenia or type 2 diabetes or any of this stuff, it's like having a loaded gun for that, but the trigger never gets pulled if you don't live in the right environment, or if you live in the right environment. And so similarly, if you're in business coaching with whomever or doing any kind of stuff, if someone's trying to do what we're talking about today and you're not working on yourself, this could take years or decades or never. Like you'll fire the coach because you're like, this isn't working. I'll fire the whatever. But if you're willing to shift your perspective, which takes open-mindedness, and it's so funny how opportunistic a lot of us entrepreneurs are, about how close-minded we are. Nope, I believe what I believe. I know what I know. It's like their principles are their principles. And it's being open-minded. Someone could change their entire life. Nothing changes with their net worth. Nothing changes with how their spouse acts. Nothing changes with their body. But they could come in 48 hours and have their mind blown open and say, gosh, I'm not in the shape I want to be, but I'm what a miracle this body is that God created, and I can just I can do something about it. And how blessed am I that I live in America at this time, and I have the freedom to do whatever the hell I want. Like I can literally quit my business tomorrow, or I can whatever. It's like, if we can flip your mind, it's the best 6 inches of real estate you can ever flip, right? And everything changes in an instant. So there's that piece, Leon, that is that you can get massive change in a short amount of time from perspective shifts. And then that's actually what changes your behavior. And I know we're running a little shy on time here, but I'll just add this. If you guys don't know be, do, have, you can Google it. Most people think what happens is, I need to have the job, have the money, have the spouse, have the kids, have the whatever, and then I'll do the things with that stuff, and that makes me be the person. It is flipped the other way. You need to be first, and then you do the things that person, if you're being this person, what would that person do? Then doing those things lets you have the things that you wanted. The reality, what's funny is, Leon, is that as soon as you focus on being, the stuff you thought you needed to have, you don't even care about. Having an RV sucks. Where do you park it? Just, it's insurance. Like having a boat can suck because it's maintenance. Like you have to enjoy fixing and cleaning your boat and covering it if you have a boat. Like we've all done this stuff. We're like, oh, this sounds awesome. It's way more cool to rent an RV twice a year for 2 weeks than it is to figure out like where to keep it. So like, we don't care that much about the stuff if we can become but having the stuff is a backwards way of feeling like we made it, but we can make it in our mind, and then we do more aligned activities, and then we get the things we want. And yeah, it's just an extremely powerful, liberating piece for people to understand that. And so to answer your question, I mean, you can have big change mentally pretty quickly within, a few weeks or a month, within a few sessions. But also, to be practical, it's like, hey, what I would urge you guys to do is, if you're working on yourselves, which I know all you are, or you wouldn't be in CG, take really good, that audit idea, even if you just want to Bubba math it, and once a quarter, rate your marriage on a scale of 1 to 10 and why you rated it, and your health and all these, every part of your life, just rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Think about what you wish it would be, what would need to change, what would need to start, what would need to stop, what do you need to learn, like what needs to happen to get to the number you want it to be. Write it down. If you really want extra credit, take those things that you need to start and stop doing and put them on your calendar so you actually get them done. But just becoming aware of where you really are, and then doing that once a quarter, will give you a lot of awareness. But will also, the last thing I'll say in this, Leon, is that sometimes people have massive change and they kind of become numb to it. They're inoculated to just always winning. They forget how much they've won. And so they don't really feel that. They're like, I don't know, man. It's like, no, you made a $50 million business. Like, you did a lot. Like, you have kids that are grown. Like, you did a lot. Like, and so sometimes we just don't even know how to like pat ourselves on the back. And so we got to track our progress in all aspects of our life, not just our bank account.
There's a couple things there I wanted to hit on. Number one, you're right, man. The most successful real estate investors in the United States and some overseas that we have within this community, I don't see them celebrate often. Mm-hmm. Yet, one thing I have noticed over the last 5 years, one of the biggest changes that I've noticed is, especially the people that have been in the business 10 plus years, have worked more on themselves. That's been a theme that I've seen across the board, have worked more on themselves, their relationships, the tree trunk that you talked about earlier. It's something that I think, again, we go back to looking at where people are at in their age. They've built something. Obviously, balance is tough when you're growing something. But what I've noticed over the last 5 years, the highest level entrepreneurs in this space have really taken the time and energy and effort to work on themselves so they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. And that's so, as I've seen transformations from a body standpoint, people losing tons of weight, having more energy, having more time, because they've hired the right people. They're better leaders. I've seen more of that over the last 5 years, especially the last 2. I've just been blown away by the transformations that I've seen within this community. So I wanted to have you on today to talk about, the importance of, yes, aligning, of having a business that you can, if you're listening to this, you're always in growth mode and scaling your business. But I think and this may be our generation's parents that we didn't talk much about working on ourselves. Right? And now
don't tell anyone you're going to therapy. Don't tell anyone.
Yes, exactly. I remember people not being able to get jobs because they were in therapy. It was, not looked upon as something that was positive. I do see that opening up now, especially for our generation, not the boomers, the Xers, that are at that point where we see that we're on the other side of 40, and it's important, if we're going to do this, to do it, our way. And I think that's what you were talking about earlier, is finding your way and finding your North Star. So important, and I wanted that message to be shared here today. Any final thoughts on how to take those first steps?
Yeah, I'll just say this. One thing that I've love about CG over the years, and watching it from when it started until now, and I've already dated myself, so I've been in and around the real estate world for almost 25 years. And so, and in business for 27, 28 years or whatever. But groups like this, like what CG being at the elite level that it's at, it can help people lose their identity into their business. And then they make the business a thing. But what CG can do is fix that variable. And you don't get the chance, you don't have the free time or the free money to go explore who you are. Whether you do that at the bottom of an ayahuasca bottle in Peru, or with a therapist, or at your church I don't care. You don't get to do those things until you have time and money freedom. To some extent, you don't need to be independently wealthy for the rest of your life. CG is really good at if you're trying to solve for X, which is who am I, why am I here? There's Y and Z and all these other things, and you can get your systems fixed. You can get your people fixed. You can get your KPI. You can get all that stuff. Once you solve, the last piece that's always going to be yourself is the X factor. By the way, Gen X, maybe we're the ones that figured this out, like you said, Leon. But it's like, the reality is, that is where I would tell you guys that we ultimately need to get to. But if you don't heal the business, you're never going to have the mental space, the time, or the money or resource freedom to go explore who you really are. Here's the theory of what I do with trying to evolve humanity and be a way shower, is what I call what we do, to help people find their way. It's not to do it for them or show them what I did. It's what I learned, so you can go find your own way. But the reality is, if we can heal the business so it gives you some free time and free money so you can exit, which is why Team Architects is so important, because you and I talked about this. The only way you're ever going to get out of your business, you can grow it all you want, but you're not scaling it until you get out of the way, and you can't get out of the way without the right people. Team Architects is such an important piece of this. It's only one aspect of what we do. But if we can get the right people so that we can step out and then we start making more money, we'll go explore who we are. And here's my theory, Leon, with this whole thing, is that once everyone really finds out their true self, they always want to do better. They want to do good in the world. And many people that want to do good, they just can't, because they don't know how to affect change at a mass level. They don't know how to distribute a product or a service profitably at scale. Well, the very thing that freed us up to become the better version of ourselves was learning how to affect change at scale. Maybe it's flipping houses at scale, but we're affecting valuations of houses and housing conditions for tenants and occupants. And we're taking, tax rolls. We're doing all these things that are giving jobs to construction workers and realtors and appraisers, and all this good is happening. But when we step out of that, now we want to do better. We actually have the mechanisms and the resources. So I would just say, stick with this if you're doing this kind of thing like CG or coaching or things you're adding in, because the business is not the thing that you're after, having it be successful, but it is one of the things we need to unlock you to go do the thing, if that makes sense. And so that's why I think you've seen it, because CG's come into itself so much over the last 6 or 8 years. And over these last, I know you guys keep adding layers because people keep advancing and advancing who have stuck around. They've solved for all the other variables, and now they're left with the only one that matters, which is who am I and why am I here?
All said. If people want to reach out to you, Steve, and potentially work with you, obviously so many good things here from a personal or business standpoint. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, we had my anecdotal joke I'll tell is we were laughing because I don't really do social anymore. And you're like, you got to have a way to connect. I would love to, especially in this community of folks like in CG and like you said, being in the family with the family mastermind and things. I really want to implore any of you, if there's anything I said, I don't care if you want to hire us to hire people. I don't care if you want to coach with us. I don't care if you want to come to retreat, all these things. I've learned to answer the nudges. I'm sure you did too, Leon, because we had one when we met. We got nudged to do this podcast, and we are. And I know this podcast is the beginning of us probably getting to know each other a lot better. If you felt something now, reach out to me. Or later, if you're sitting around and this pops in your head, it's for a reason. And in lieu of giving my cell phone out, which maybe not be as practical, I told you before, I'm just going to make theteamarchitects.com/CG. It's not an opt-in to form to some BS funnel. It is literally a form I'm going to make just for CG. And I know all of you guys that run it really well. And I know many, many of you guys in here. So this is literally just for you guys. It's just a form that will drop you in because I don't use email. Having you go straight to my cell phone is probably not practical. So we'll make that form. I'm sure you can share the link and it will come straight to me and I will probably text you. And I really do mean what I said, Leon. I'm here to help people find their way. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate what you guys do for so many people, because you guys have helped so many people find their way. I mean, at mass scale in the mastermind world. And so I applaud what you guys do. And I applaud everyone that's watching this because they've committed, real time and money to be in a group like this. And you're on the right path already if you're watching this.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you saying that. We'll get that website on the show notes. It's theteamarchitects.com/CG. We'll put those again in the show notes. Steve, thank you so much for your time. And like you said, that nudge has created a lifelong friendship. And if you heard something here today that nudged you, I would encourage you to take Steve up on that offer, very generous offer, to reach out to him directly. It is, we call this the podcast for real estate investors that want to grow and scale. But as I say every episode, it's not just about business. You cannot grow and scale without the personal side being a part of it to truly find your way, as Steve has mentioned several times on this pod, and just enjoy. We're all doing this for a reason, right? And the Collective Genius has always been about being servants. And I've always found the time in which I'm the happiest is usually when I'm serving other people. And that is truly who Steve is here today. Steve, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it as always and look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, take care. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Steve. All right, so if you'd love to be in the room with great people like Steve, obviously you know how to do that by now. Our website is explorecg.com. There you'll find everything you need to know about all the different tiers of the Collective Genius. If you're a full-time real estate investor, we more than likely have a spot for you. We'll have an application there. You can fill that out, and then at the end, you'll know whether this is the right fit for you once we do our consultation. For most, it is, and we also understand that for some that it's not as well. As we talked about with Steve, sometimes it's all right just being an entrepreneur, making a couple $100,000 a year and being a landlord. That's okay too. But if you're serious about scaling your business, the Collective Genius, you can find that at explorecg.com. That's it for this week. We will see you next week on the Collective Genius Podcast.
Are you ready to scale your real estate business? Visit thecollectivegenius.com, where real estate investors come to scale. Subscribe to the Collective Genius Podcast and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next episode releases. And thanks for listening.